Hello, hola, bonjour. Tune in every Tuesday to the Dear God podcast.
¿Y qué pasó?
Nah, we talking like it's 1995. Let go of that Wi-Fi. Let's laugh and cry, but never say goodbye. Primos y primas, que lo que, and welcome. Bienvenidos to the Dear God, Are We There Yet? The podcast con tu prima favorita. Soy Alicia, and I'm so excited to, as always. I know last week we had a little break, and sometimes we need to do that to reconnect. And there's just so many things going on in my life, and it's all mixed. And, you know, it's positive, it's changing, it's strength, it's sometimes things don't have to always be bad per se. They can be challenging. And there's nothing wrong. I think that when there's things that are challenging, that means there's growth. I think that when you're trying to adjust to a schedule or when you're trying to adjust to a new life, I think it's growth. I think that everything has its moments, and that's exactly what I've been. And I want to share with you guys. That's why I wanted to do this podcast today, because, you know, yo estaba pensando mucho, and I'm actually recording this podcast on my way to the gym because I've been going back to the gym and into my whole workout ritual. And yo pienso todo el día, I'm like, well, I'm going to the gym on certain days or whatever the case, but am I exercising my mind? Am I exercising my brain? Am I exercising, giving that same tender care love that I'm, trying to give my body through food? Am I giving it, and also working out? Am I doing it through my mind? And I want to talk to you about 3 things that I kind of learned about exercising my mind, my brain. And no, it's not just Sudoku, no sé cómo se dice eso. Sudoku. Oh, you know what I'm talking about. Or the crossword puzzles. I'm not talking about that kind of mind. I'm talking about a little bit something deeper, because we live in our thoughts so many times in a day. And that's my number one. I want to talk about that. Like, we live in our brains so many times. How are we, one, rewiring the conversation in our mind? I was trying to fall asleep the other night y yo estaba un cansancio arriba, pero no pude because my mind was just it was crazy. It was like traffic, 405 traffic in Los Angeles. Come on, if you've ever been to LA, you know that the LA traffic on the 405 is ridiculous, okay? And that's exactly what my brain was. It was the 405. And after reading this article and just reading things about, I'm discovering myself all over again. I think every single day I discover myself, but I'm finding things that I don't like. I'm finding things that I'm like ashamed of, or I'm embarrassed. And of course I shouldn't be. I mean, it's all about part of growth and change, right? But it's truth. It's something that you have all these things and these messages we tell ourselves, or thoughts that we say. And I had to tell myself, Alicia, how are you going to rewrite this conversation in your brain? You can either go all round and around and around and around and around and around of how you don't want this and how you need to stop this, or you need to go this, or why is this happening to you, and da-da-da-da. And it's rewiring the conversation. Even my therapist that I used to, like when I used to talk to certain therapists, different therapists, and I'm going to talk about different ones because everyone has their way of doing things. They would always say to me, it's the words that you use to tell yourself certain things, right? And if you've been in therapy, you know what I'm talking about. If not, you probably read about it in a lot of different books, spiritual books, about the conversation we have. Rewrite that conversation in your mind. Rewrite that. How are you going to say those words? I always say, my wife jokes at me now because I said it's not a problem, it's a situation, or I don't know what else I say. And she picks at me sometimes when I say that, because I've had to rewire my mind to tell myself, well, Alicia, it's not a problem. Don't use that word, because yes, for me, a problem, yeah, it could be, a mathematical problem or whatever. But I keep telling myself it's a situation. The situations have solutions. Not to say that problems don't, because they all do. They always have one outcome. If you're thinking about math, there's many ways to do them, but they have one outcome. But with situations, they have different types of solutions, right? So I try to tell myself, and that's how I'm rewriting these thoughts in my brain that won't let me go to sleep at night. So la próxima vez que tú tienes en la mente tuya que está muy llena de mierda, okay? Like, that's exactly what I'm going to say. It's basically crap, because sometimes we're telling ourselves things that we don't need to tell ourselves, but how are we rewriting that conversation? And I promise you will probably be able to get to bed, because I was able to. It makes me feel good. It's kind of like a warm hug. The second one I would say about the exercise to our mind, what food are we giving what's the food that we're giving our mind? And I'm not talking about brain. I'm not talking about just your brain as far as the games and all that stuff that we do to, and maybe reading and not watching TV and all that stuff. I'm talking about from a mindset point of view, like your mind, where we live these thoughts every single day, and there's so many things that happen in our lives, and situations and roadblocks and all these different things, and it's like, what is the food is my mind a vegetarian? Is it vegan? Is it does it love me? What kind of food do I give my mind? And I'm going to tell you, the same way that you eat in your right now, the same way that you eat with however you eat. I'm not really labeled anything, except I don't really eat meat. I don't eat meat, so I can't say I just don't eat meat. It might be the same. It might not be the same way for your brain, basically your mind. It might not be the same way. Whatever you feed yourself physically might not be the same. Although meditation and yoga and all that good stuff is amazing, it might not feed your brain or your mind at this point in life. Your mind needs something else. Maybe you need an audiobook. Maybe you need to write it down. Maybe you need to listen to affirmations. Maybe you need to, post certain things on your wall. Maybe you need to cry about it. And that is feeding your brain crazily and expressing those emotions and going through it with someone. You have to feed your brain something. And with feeding your brain, we know we got to go to the bathroom, right? So that's why I meant you have to cry about it, because that's the crap that we're releasing. And then we have to feed it again with whatever it is that we're going through. So don't starve your mind with the possibilities of doing something different because it worked for you. I'll tell you this, when I did yoga a long time ago, I loved yoga. Yoga was like a center in my life that I absolutely needed it. And ever since when I did pick it up again, it wasn't the same. Not to say it wasn't good, because it was awesome, but it wasn't the same. Not to say that I didn't need it, because who doesn't need an amazing workout of yoga? I mean, come on, right? But it was a different thing for me. It was a different tactic for me, where I've always liked to write in journals and write and stuff. And now I need to see it more, now I need to see my, if I do a visualization of something of manifestation, I need to see it, it's not that it's just in my book written. Now I need to see it. So it's different now. And so feed your mind what you need for this moment in life. And if what didn't work for you before, that's fine, but find what feeds your mind now. And try something different. Just because you did it before doesn't mean it's not gonna serve you well. I didn't understand that even working out my muscles, if that sounds crazy, was feeding my mind, because I was thinking about certain things. I was adding these positive words like, Alicia, you can do it. Like, you can push. Do this push-up. It's the same as if you're trying to run this in your life, and how are you, blah, blah, blah. And I start to bring these analogies about la carretera, the road. And so that's why it works for me. And I never knew that. And I'm starting to see all these different things. And I'm like, wow, I really dislike that, but I'm seeing how really good it is for me. So feed your brain, feed your mind, and then get rid of the crap as you go, so that you can keep feeding it, because that's exactly what our bodies do. And then the third one, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a therapist, I'm nothing to say that I have any type of reputation of anything. Okay, so if you guys want to speak to someone professional, please go ahead and do so. Actually, I recommend it, because these are just my suggestions, and I have to make sure that I give this disclosure, because I don't want people to think, well, I did this and it didn't work, and ay Dios mío, because you know how it is now with podcasts. But the third one I want to come to is the one that I was reading, that was for your mind. It's feeding your mind, working out your mind is being able to how can I say this? Receive and throw away. And I didn't get that. And I'm going to explain what that is, receive and throw away. So, or not to say throw away, esa palabra nunca la puedo decir. To put it in a different, yo estoy pensando la palabra, yo lo sé la palabra. It's to basically put in a different category. So not to throw away, just to receive and put it somewhere where after you receive, you were able to, you thought about it, you're thinking about it, and you're going to put it in somewhere where you know you're aware of it. And let me get to the point so you know exactly what I'm talking about. Our emotions based on our past and our present and even our future, and crazy, surprisingly, our future can give us this anxiety. I wrote something about this on my social media last week about our future giving us this anxiety. We need to process those emotions as best as we can in that moment, because we will never be able to process them completely. So we need to receive those emotions fully of how we feel and process it, and then put them in the categories that they need to, where they deserve to be categorized. Meaning that if you're feeling a certain way about something that happened in your past and you can't let it go, or your present or your future, and you're just trying to make sure that it ticks off the little signal that you finished processing completely. Finish processing what you can at this moment, and then let that anger, that happiness, whatever it is, that go, and put it into something where you say, I'm going to revisit it when it's needed, because I'm validating these emotions. Because to be honest with you, you will never, ever, 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 ever really forget anything that's ever happened to you, and any type of emotion. And they say let go and live. It's true, but it will always trigger back in our lives. And it's not a bad thing, because sometimes we can use those as positive reinforcements to say, wow, we went through that. So I understand this. If you might be completely, don't agree with me, that's totally fine. I love you if you do, and I love you if you don't. It doesn't matter. It's just something that I've read for me. But I'll give you an example that I always say, like, all my failures in my life, I've had emotions attached to those failures. Anytime that I'm going to be close to something and I feel like I'm going to fail, I have to process and know that emotion is real. Not the fear that's real, but that same emotion has happened to me in the past. But instead of me being like, whatever, I don't feel this way, I have to take that emotion and put it somewhere and be like, Alicia, this is valid because this happened to you before. But just because it happened to you before doesn't mean you're going to fail. It means that we're at the same roadblock, but the outcome doesn't have to be the same. So until I process it completely, and you'll never process it, and then later on I might succeed or I might fail, and I might use it and say, wow, I learned from it, or wow, I made a different decision, but I still learned something, or I was able to grow from it. Because either way, if it's good or bad, you're going to learn and grow from it, both. You're not gonna both not learn and not grow. So that's my last one for today that I want to talk about on this little short Dear God, Are We There Yet podcast about exercising your mind and your brain. And I hope to see you guys next week on the podcast. It was a pretty long one this week, right? But I really needed to talk about this because I hope you guys can help you, and I'll be sharing more things about the Dear God, Are We There Yet? Have a great day.